Welcome to this episode of the Standing Ovation.
I think the important thing about mapping a customer journey is that it's a starting point, right? You sort of get a baseline diagnostic of what is it like for somebody outside of my company to experience all the different silos and organizations and systems and handoffs, between those organizations as that customer tries to get something done with me, right? So that's the point of a journey map, is to say, okay, what's the current state of a customer's experience of my enterprise, my partners, my people? And then from there, you should have identified, because we haven't seen one that's great yet, you should have identified a number of places where things could go better, right? Handoffs could be smoother, processes could be streamlined, visibility could always be better, across the organization. People, as they've got the customer, often don't know what they need to know in that moment. I mean, how many of us have had, an experience of talking to an organization where I'm repeating to every single person I speak to, here's who I am, here's what I have with you, here's my problem. How frustrating is that, right? So, what we find is some fairly common themes across those journeys when we map them, which are things like, nobody knows what everybody else is doing. I don't know that you just talked to Sue and that you now need to talk to James. I'm just this guy who had you land in my lap. And so I'm asking you to describe your problem as opposed to anticipating, hey, guess what? I know that this is what you're working on. I know the conversation you just had with Sue. I'm going to send you over to James, but right now I'm just going to give you this piece of information that will help go better, right? That's just a completely different experience. And frankly, with the right tool set, it's not that hard to make that happen.
Yeah, I think one of the main advantages, we've talked about it and mentioned it a few times, are just being able to see some of the gaps that maybe you haven't necessarily thought about or looked at for multiple years. And so oftentimes when we sit down with clients, you start to talk through the individual steps within a customer's journey, and they're like, wow, I didn't even realize that we have this gap in time in which the customer doesn't even hear from us. Or I didn't even realize that we're sending them 7 different follow-up emails after they took one action. How can we consolidate that? How can we pull this together in something that's a little bit more, directionally focused on what they're trying to achieve at the moment, and a little bit less verbose or possibly, as I think Tim mentioned, kind of, a little bit of a spaghetti mess in terms of, what we're delivering them.
I think, one of the things that we found is when you can take an existing organization and process and say, on top of that, I'm going to lay this lightweight, dynamic platform framework that allows me to modulate, fine-tune, change the customer's experience of the process that I'm still going to go through internally because it's efficient for me, right? That can be, quite frankly, transformational. And for the most part, that really is digital transformation in the industry, in enterprise. It's the customer's experience of the things you have to get done are not a direct read on the things you're doing, right? Here are the 4 steps, Mr. Customer. Underneath those, there are 80 that I'm executing, but you don't need to see those, and I don't need to drag you through them or drive handoffs across those organizations. Let me facilitate making it easy for you, like kind of the way a concierge does. Instead of saying, hey, I'd like a nice restaurant. Here's a map and a list. No, it's like, okay, what would you like to experience? Let me curate and sort of customize that experience for you based on what you're trying to accomplish. It's that kind of approach on top of the journey map that really is the diagnostic against which we then drive the platform.
The key thing here is being able to take what we've done from an actual pen to paper perspective. We just mapped out our customer journey, and then building that with a journey orchestration mechanism to take that from no longer a static journey, but something that can be, that's cloud-based, something that can be cross-functional and be managed, into perpetuity. Because one thing we do know is that our customers are always evolving. The products and services that they're purchasing will, ideally continue to expand. And with that, the customer journey and customer experience will evolve over time, given that. So again, we want to focus on the step in the operation of going and mapping our customer journey is fantastic, but then you need to take that to the next level. How do we actually put that into action? How do we actually take all the different gaps that we found, solve them, and then give that to a solution to our customer to make sure that when they reach out to us, they know exactly what to expect, regardless of the reason for their call.
I think I absolutely agree with that. And I think if you think about mapping a customer's journey as a diagnosis, right? And then the prescription is, okay, well then I've identified what doesn't work, right? What it looks like today, and there are always flaws. The prescription is, okay, well then how do I make this better, right? And so the journey map is simply a means to that end, right? It's like saying, okay, well, you've got this illness, right? And it's not always that bad, but here are some challenges that we've managed to identify and how the customer experiences your enterprise and your partners. Okay, now how do we make that better? How do we make that go well more consistently, right? And so it's simply the starting point for the transformation, which quite frankly should never really end, right? You're always going to be fine-tuning and dynamically managing customer journeys if you've got the right tool set, as opposed to saying, I'm just going to create this fixed, static, sort of blocked step function process that I'm going to force everyone through. That's part of the challenge that a lot of customers have with enterprises today, is that's how they've approached things like closing a sale or taking a customer live or solving a customer problem. It's a script as opposed to what it really needs to be, which is a conversation.
The main thing is we spend so much time focusing around, what are our current state journeys? And that's the first step. And you get into, what stages and steps need to be improved? Like, what are the gaps within our current state? And then with that, the next step is identifying your ideal state. And that's when you start to come into a solutioning conversation, which is, I need a solution that can help converse with my customer in real time in all digital formats. I need to be able to give my customer real-time view of their customer journey, where they are in any given step or stage, across any screen that they would ever want to reach out to. This could be mobile. This could be on a desktop. This could be, within an email message that we're sending them. Again, you want to take back. You need to get a view of your existing current state journey, and then you want to start mapping. What is that ideal state? And once you have the ideal state across all of your journeys, that's when you start to get into the orchestration perspective. So there's kind of 3 steps there, and so it's like mapping. What is it? How does it exist today? What do I want it to look like tomorrow and into the future? And then how do I actually, codify that and put that into action? And then to Tim's point here, the most important thing is making sure you have something that is flexible and not hard-coded. The last thing you want to do is go through a process and implementing new customer journeys. And by the time that actually, your customers start interacting with it, it's already stale. We need to focus on cloud-based. We need to focus on evergreen and our ability to have people come in and tweak journeys, because as we mentioned, the customer journey will continue to evolve. Your relationship with that customer will evolve, and you need to have something that's flexible, that can adjust the conversation and the experience that your customer is having in real time.
One of the most important things that we've found as we've helped enterprises drive dynamic improvement, real-time improvement in customer journeys, is that we give business owners the tools that they need to see how well customer journeys are going, to in the moment know when folks are stuck or unsatisfied with a particular stage, to be able to modify and customize how a customer is experiencing the enterprise based on that customer segment, product, status, and can do that in real time, right? As opposed to after the fact. And I think one of the most important things we found is, as a dynamic, sort of visual builder journey orchestration engine, we really help the CRM managers and the business owners become really great partners in driving great outcomes for customers and therefore for the business overall, right? Business owners have the visibility and the flexibility to say, hey, this needs to change. This is something that needs to improve in the moment. And, they don't have to go get into a dev queue right, with an internal system to make that change, right? They've got their CRM partner with this dynamic tool, and the two of them can work closely together to change that customer outcome in the moment, in the moment of truth, which we found can be transformational for enterprises and for the business results that they see.
Yeah, I think oftentimes if you're focused on just taking, historical months of data to then formulate that next step, or the N+1 interaction you're having with the customer, by the time you even put that in action, it's already outdated, and it's already too late. That customer already had a poor experience. And so what we're really focused on are getting, the data, the resources in real time from the systems and platforms that we need them, so that we can actually provide a real-time, curated, highly relevant experience to that customer when they reach out at that exact moment of need. Not 7 days or 14 days later when some relationship manager is going back and looking at what that interaction looks like, because at that point we've already failed. So we want to be able to give it to them in real time. We want to make sure that that each and every interaction that we've had is the best foot forward, the optimal experience that we want to provide our customer. And at that point, we know we're doing the right thing.
One of the things that I think is a nice addition to what, or an enhancement to what Tyler just said, or another great contextual piece of it is, every now and then, despite your best intentions, right, and despite your best designs, something can go sideways, right? And so I think the key thing is being nimble as an organization. First of all, being aware as an organization that it's going sideways for a customer, and actually knowing that in advance of the customer knowing it, or at least at the same moment, so you can start to resolve that, right? I can't tell you how many enterprise conversations we've been through where, halfway through a conversation about existing customer experience, they'll pull out the email thread, and every enterprise has this, the famous email thread where every executive in the company is on a multi-screen, multi-page email thread trying to figure out what happened when that thing went bad a week ago, and how do we make sure it doesn't happen again, right? As opposed to saying everyone who needs to be aware is aware in the moment, and a platform is there to help start recommending solutions to get that customer back on their way, right? It's just a completely different experience and a completely different approach to managing the business that we think is more effective for everyone, for the associates internally at the enterprise, for the executives who care about the business outcomes, and most importantly, for the customers who are the source of revenue,